In the world of BMX, there is a saying, and it goes a little something like this: you can't do much with two triangles. That's right, you know, a BMX frame is made of two triangles. You got the front end, you got the rear end, and they're both in a triangular shape. And throughout the years, people have said that you can't do much with that type of design, you know, not a lot of variety can happen. But actually, there is a lot of variety that happens, and there's a lot of things that separate one bike from the next. BMX has evolved from just chromoly to now we got aluminum, we got titanium, we got carbon, we have tapered tubing, we have hydroform tubing. All kind of different things are happening with these frames, and if you look at BMX in its totality, meaning freestyle racing and all that, you'll see a lot of variety in the frame. But today I'd like to talk about the part of the bike that gets a lot of variety, and that is the rear dropout. At least in the world of BMX racing, you get a lot of variety in style and technology in the rear dropouts. And with that said, I'm going to talk about the top 10 most unique BMX frame dropouts in the game. And I'm going to start with number 10, which is the Mio HSX Carbon. All right, so Mio took what was already working with their HSX aluminum frame and leveled it up on their carbon frame by using a fixed position through axle dropout. They had it on the aluminum frame, but they just stepped it up on this carbon frame. It looks real crazy. So having a fixed axle on the rear makes the rear end of the frame a lot stiffer and easier to do maintenance on. The frame comes with its own chain tensioning system, and also it's derailleur ready. So you can change your gear size without worrying about changing your chain. You know, you can do big in the front, you can go small, any kind of size you want, but you won't have to worry about changing the chain because it has a derailleur. The only thing that I have an issue with personally is I like having the option to change my position. So a fixed position axle for me wouldn't be ideal because, you know, I like to really set my rear wheel where I really want it to be. I'm not really a fan of really long rear ends, like 15.2, 15.3, stuff like that. I'm more of a 14.6, 14.75 kind of guy. And not to be able to make an adjustment based on that could be a deal breaker for me. But there are other ways you can compensate for having a long rear end by changing your stem height, your handlebar height, or your handlebar size altogether. And you can also change your tires. So your tire size in the front and the rear can also change the leverage that you may be looking for if you have something that's not ideal as far as the chainstay length in that fixed setting. All right, y'all. So coming in, number 9 is the Supercross Vision F1 Carbon frame. Now the dropout on this awesome frame is enclosed and fixed like the Mio, but it has a special flip chip adapter which gives you an option for 2 fixed positions, or maybe I think it's either 2 or 3 fixed positions you can have with the flip chip design. This dropout can fit 15mm or 10mm axles with its flip chip adapters, and the rear end also accepts 120mm disc brakes. It has a built-in chain idler guide, and it's a solid piece of carbon back there to make it real stiff and supportive right there. So as you can see, the fixed or the enclosed dropout is the going trend with a lot of frames nowadays. Next up on the list, we have the Speedco Coelocks coming in 8th place, and I really like the style of this one with its nice bends, its weight saving holes, and chain tensioning system. Of course, you know I'm feeling the more traditional open dropout slot, giving you the option to really dial in your wheel placement. I also have to mention their unique brake mount system they have going on there. It's a flat mount design that attaches the brake caliper to the inner axle block and internally routes the brake cable through the inside of the chainstay. Naturally, it slides with the wheel and fastens to the frame with a 4mm screw on the outside of the chainstay. The axle compatibility is 10mm, 15mm, and 20mm, so they have adapters for all 3 sizes, which is great because most of them only do 2, 10 and 15, but it's cool to have the option to have 10, 15, and 20mm, so that's a cool feature. And the brake rotor compatibility is 144mm. Now, technically on this frame and even some of the other frames, you're going to see that there's not really a traditional dropout. You know, a dropout on a traditional BMX frame is actually its own little piece. But with these new frames, especially with the carbon frames, it's all part of the frame. So it's basically the chainstay and the seat stay, they meet together, and the dropout is just basically a part of all of that. So there's no real separate part. It's all part of the frame. So you're going to see that a lot in this list right here. But at the end of the day, it's the Dropout section, so we're going to keep calling it the Dropout section. Next up, we got the Ice Raptor, that crazy frame, the Ice Raptor. I really like how this rear end looks. And this is another frame that technically has a pretty standard Dropout with its IRC ice roller coaster chain tensioning system. The Dropout can fit either 15mm or 10mm axles, but you can't talk about the Dropouts on this bike without mentioning its unique seat stay and chain stay area. It features an extra tube that connects the seat stay and the chain stay a little more than halfway down the rear end. Clearly this was designed to make the bike stiffer in the rear, but it also upgrades the look of the frame. I mean, this thing really makes a statement. The bike really stands out from the crowd with that unique design. Also, this is the only bike on the list that technically has 3 sections instead of 2. So the whole thing about 2 triangles on this frame is totally irrelevant, because you have a front triangle, you have the rear or the middle triangle, but it's not really a triangle no more due to the shape that they have. And you have this third section, which is part of the rear end as well, but it's its own section, which is the Dropout section. And that's not even a triangle either. That's a whole different kind of shape. So this bike is really different than the rest of them. 6th place on the list is the Sun Royal Factory. Now, Sun was kind of ahead of his time on the look of this Dropout. You know, this is an enclosed Dropout, but it has a nice unique design with some really sharp edges to it. It's the lines on this particular Dropout that really stands out from the rest and makes it unique from the pack. Also, you can see there's a weld on the chainstay, so it looks like the seat stay to the Dropout is all one piece, and the chainstay is actually welded on to the Dropout. So this is a 2-piece rear end as opposed to a 3-piece rear end, or just a singular piece rear end like the Carbon bikes. So Sun said in their description that the entire Dropout area is specifically designed to accommodate a disc and all the necessary adjustments with unapologetic high tech. The Daylight Arc C1. Yes, look at that bad boy right there. It's hot. Now this bike takes what the GT Speed Series started and perfected it with their vertical sliding dropouts. So Daylight says other frames responded with fixed rear axles and idler spring arms to solve disc brake mount, axle creep, and drivetrain alignment issues. But even those with some wheelbase adjustments, dangling idler, and the excess chain simply don't give you much compared to the width of our large drop slots, and the easiest to remove and reinstall a rear wheel with no readjustment necessary. But yes, Daylight's version of the horizontal Dropout is crazy and really well made. Coming in 4th place is Descendant SYB 225. Look at that thing right there. What? Unique simplicity is the name of the game on this frame right here. 2 things I really like about this Dropout is the large adjustable dial for the chain tensioner and the amount of adjustability of the enclosed Dropout. I mean, that joint looks like it has over an inch, like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of play right there where you can adjust your wheel. So that I really like. The really big knob will make things a lot easier. You don't have to go fumbling around for some Allen key to try and, loosen and tighten it. All you have to do is just turn the dial to get that thing dialed in, which is dope. But there is a set screw on there that you can see, and that helps lock it in place once you have it all set. You can run 10, 15, or 20mm axles on this bad boy right here. And the disc brake rotor size for this frame is 144mm. All right, that's pretty much it. Coming in 3rd place is a GT Speed Series, which is the OG of the modern day unique Dropout movement. GT called it the Quick Change Disc Dropout System. And it's also one of the only frames where the Dropout is facing down. See how it's facing down there? What's really cool about this design is you get the best of both worlds with a fixed and adjustable Dropout. So the wheel is fixed in that little Dropout, and then you just slide it back and forth. So that was a revolutionary thing when they first came out with that. Another unique feature about this frame right here is the disc mounts sit at the back of the frame and it's positioned vertically, which was kind of wild looking. You have your brake calipers sitting at the back of the frame pointed vertically. Unfortunately, GT will not be making this frame anymore due to its company-wide halt of production on everything they make. The GT Speed Series is a staple in BMX racing frames, and it will always be a classic, but rest in peace to the GT Speed Series. The Stay Strong V5. Now this frame Dropout has a lot going on in the details department. Stay Strong is actually calling this right here their bespoke race division Dropouts. Now first of all, it's another enclosed Dropout with some nice adjustability. It has proprietary sliding axle guides, axle guide lock screws for extra non-slip prevention strength, integrated chain tensioning system that's hidden at the very end of the frame, and you can only see them if you're looking at the back of the frame because they're recessed. Another cool feature is the Race Division branding embossed just above the 5 designer cutout slots that are just above the dropout itself. We got that new Marshall SR71 Blackbird in first place. This thing right here is next level and way more unique than the rest of the ones that we've seen so far on this list. There's definitely nothing like this, and it has a lot of adjustability. This frame features Marshall's patented dropout system, which features 6 holes spaced 8mm apart and incorporating a crescent shape. This feature gives the SR71 the ability to offer ultra-precise rear wheel adjustment. There are detachable adaptive panels to fit either a 10mm axle for 6 different positions or a 15mm axle which only does 4 positions. Marshall also created their new generational horizontal tension chain tensioner as part of the dropout system. So you can see that right there in the photo, the tensioning system, which is pretty dope. Now this dropout right here puts a whole new spin on the fixed but adjustable concept. So, you know, once you get it set, it's fixed, you know, so you're all good with that. Your alignment is straight. If you have a 10mm axle, you have all of those different slots that you can adjust. And of course, with the 15, you got the 4 slots. But the cool thing about it is you don't have to worry about aligning your wheel, which is cool. You just set it in those slots and you're all good. Tighten it up, you're good to go. Put your chain on, you got the derailleur. Don't have to worry about your chain size or nothing. You just kind of set it and go. Not only is there a lot of cool tech going on in this dropout, but the look of it is sick too. I mean, it's pretty much a big solid block, which should make the frame super stiff, and is also the least dropout looking dropouts out of the whole bunch. I mean, you have this chain stay and the seat stay seamlessly merging together with this big plate here that handles your rear wheel, which is really cool. So that is my list of the most unique BMX frame dropouts. Let me know what you think in the comments below about all of these bad boys right here. But these are not the only unique or uniquest dropouts. So come back to sugarcane.com and check out my whole dropout list. I'm adding stuff all the time. As new frames are getting made that have unique dropouts, I'm adding them to the list, so you can go there, check them out, and definitely give those bikes a like because it's a live chart. Currently at the top of the list is the DescentSyb frame, which has 254 likes, so that's like the most liked dropout so far in this list. So you got to come back to sugarcane.com, definitely put your feedback in there, give the bikes that you like a like, and let's find out which bike winds up being #1, because I just added the Dead Fast dropout. I just added a couple other dropouts, so it definitely needs to get some love. All right, definitely like and subscribe, hit that notification button, you know the routine. Crazy Al Kane, sugarcane.com, CACTV, and I'm out. Back to you, Billy.